Welcome back here on this Sunday afternoon. We appreciate you spending some time with us. Robin Whitney, she is the new director of the Toledo Public Utilities Department. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I wanted to bring you in today because as we see the turn in from 2013 to 2014, Toledoans are going to see a bit of a jump in their water bills.
Yes, they are.
And explain that a little bit as far as what kind of costs we're talking, how long that's going to be stretched out, and why.
Sure. Well, I'll talk about the cost first. Right now, the increase that people will see on their bill in 2014 will equate to about just under $10 per quarter. So every 3 months you get your water bill. It'll be about $10, just under $10. For our homestead users, which are folks that are over 65, they get a discount. They actually use a lot less water too, so their bill increase will probably be only about $3 a quarter. Okay. So that's the change that will be in place in 2014. That's partly because of an increase on the water rate, but also the sewer rate as well. The main increase that occurred last year was the water rate increase, and that was talked about quite a bit, and City Council approved it in early 2013 to increase it, mainly because of the improvements that we need at the Collins Park plant.
Yeah, the water treatment plant.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that work that's being done, and when you look at a rate like this per quarter, and obviously we're looking at an economy that has improved over the last couple of years, but was this the number that you thought, or the city thought, yeah, we can do this, residents can handle this, and this will also, I mean, it's kind of a kill two birds with one stone. This will help us, but it's also not a backbreaker for Toledo residents?
Right. We don't feel that it's a backbreaker, although no one likes an increase. Sure. Our water rates are very competitive. Actually, even with these increases, we're still, if you compare to other large cities or other cities in Ohio, we still are going to be lower than many of those after this 5-year increase. Now that doesn't help people that may be on a fixed income, but we do feel that the rates are still competitive. But the main reason really for the increase is because of the improvements that are needed at the plant and in our distribution system.
Is it just old? Are there problems at the plant? What's the deal?
It's old, really.
Yeah.
That's really the issue. We solicited a study in 2010 to put together a 20-year master plan. We knew we needed to do some improvements. There were a lot of improvements that we needed, but we hired a consultant to say, okay, what do we need to do? What's the way to phase it out over that 20-year period so that we don't hurt our ratepayers too much? Yeah. So we had come up with a plan to spread it out over 20 years. In addition, in that study, they also said that the distribution system, the pipes that are really underneath most roads in the city, we've got about 1,100 miles of water lines, that we weren't replacing enough of those on an annual basis. Currently, we do about $2.5 million worth of water line replacement a year, and the study suggested we needed to boost that up to $10 million. So that's part of the program as well. But the big issue that happened was when we had a problem at the low service pump station back in 2012, the EPA came in and they monitor and oversee all wastewater and water facilities for all cities. And they indicated that we like your 20-year plan, but you need to do it more quickly.
No kidding.
So they basically are telling us that all of the major projects have to be started in the next 10 years.
When we talk about water treatment, everybody's kind of like, oh, okay, make sure my water is safe, my water is clean, all of that. But when you talk about an old system, is it getting the job done now as we wait for these fixes to be put into place?
Absolutely. We have a great crew of people out there that have been able to work with the old system, even though it is old and antiquated. They're doing a marvelous job of supplying great, clean, reliable water. Yeah. So everything is going fine, but it's almost like in your home, you don't really know when your furnace is going to blow, so you try to take care of those things, and that's what we're trying to do, is make sure that we're giving the proper maintenance to our older facilities and doing what we can until the improvements are in place.
I want to let my director know I'm going to kind of go out of order here, but as we talk about safety of the water and condition of the water and treatment, you guys have had kind of a bugaboo in our backyard with Lake Erie and the algae problems that have crept up, and also what we're looking at as far as farmland runoff. And the state is doing what it can, it says, you know, putting millions of dollars toward trying to mitigate the issue. But is that not a direct, I guess, something you guys have to hit head on, is it not?
Certainly. This year, in 2013, we spent $1 million more on chemicals to treat the water because of the algae blooms. So it is a direct issue. It directly affects our cost. But the issue is the algae blooms really aren't very well understood, and it's more than.
How does it? I guess let's break it down. Let's get into the cliff notes of this. How does the algae blooms affect getting to your tap? Why is that a concern?
Because I don't know that I could go into the chemistry of it, but
But we are drawing from the lake.
We are drawing from the lake. Our water comes from the water intake that is out 2 miles out into the lake. That's where all the water for not only the residents of the city of Toledo, but 500,000 people in our region get their water from. And if those algae blooms, there's a chemical composition there that can be poisonous. So it requires, when those levels increase, we have to hit that harder with the chemical treatment and monitor that very closely and make sure that we've done what we can to make sure the water is clean and safe for drinking. But the cause and the reason for the increase in the algae blooms is a little misunderstood. Really, people don't know how to deal with it and how to make sure that we don't continue to have these problems. So it's more than a City of Toledo problem. It's more than the state of Ohio. It's really something for the US EPA to help really get a focus on studying this so that we can address the issues and deal with, if it is runoff from the farm fields, we need to figure out a way to deal with that.
Right. Is it naive to think, though, when you have to target the tougher times when the algae blooms are higher in number and you have to treat the water more, is it naive to think, well, then more chemicals are going into my water?
There are more chemicals certainly going into the water to clean it. We feel that the chemicals that we're, as far as not the bad chemicals, we're treating it to make sure that it's clean and absolutely safe and within all the standards. So there's no concern that what we're doing is letting any of those harmful chemicals get into the water system. That's not happening.
Let's talk a little bit, and everybody's familiar with what we saw over the summer with the huge sinkhole at Detroit and Bancroft, but that huge hole that swallowed a car, that was all brought about by a main underneath busting and obviously deteriorating the roadway. That had been going on for some time, obviously, and as you said, it just, it's like a ticking time bomb, just waiting for it to go off. I don't want to use time bomb, that's a terrible reference, but you know where I'm going. How many more of these could we potentially see?
Well, that's a tough thing. I wouldn't venture to guess how many we can see, but we do have an old system, and a lot of things, when that happened, there were some pretty heavy rains. So usually a lot of these problems are tied to the extreme weather events. And we are getting more of those. I think there's a lot of climate change happening where we're having more extreme rains, these heavy downfalls. When that happens,
although I can't subscribe to global warming on a weekend like this weekend or what we're going to see next week. But anyway, go on.
Right. Whatever it is, whether it's global warming, these types of rains really can cause problems. The ground gets saturated, and with these old pipes, it actually was a sewer line that was the main cause of that sinkhole. And the joints between the two sections will give way, and all of a sudden the soil and things will get into it, and that's how the failure will occur.
But there's no way to get underground and figure out that one's close.
Oh, yes.
This one, or there is?
There is.
Okay.
And
I don't want to, I'm sorry to interrupt, I don't want to make this like Toledo is alone in having sinkhole problems. We've seen houses swallowed up in Florida.
Absolutely.
So
I think, and that's a good point. I think that Toledo is like many older cities. We have old aging infrastructure, and it's important that we use the best and latest technology to make sure we're proactively understanding what our needs are. And that's what we did on the water side, was by soliciting a study and really understanding what we need to do, and now we're implementing that. On the sewer side, we need to do the same thing. That's one of my goals in 2014, is to really understand what we need to do. What you essentially do on a sewer line is you have a camera. There's there's cameras that will go through the sewer, and then you need somebody to look at the camera footage, assess the quality of the sewer, and then do repairs. We're doing repairs daily on water lines and sewer lines, our crews are, in order to take care of these kinds of problems.
you talked about heavy rain, and in our last minute, I wanted to ask, as far as if we continue, we have seen an early start to I guess it's not severe, but a more active winter pattern than we've seen in years past. What if we get a prolonged winter of cold, snowy, lots of precipitation. What does that do from a public utility standpoint? Is there concern there?
The concern is usually our water line breaks go up with the cold temperatures. So this type of weather that we're having, we'll usually see an increase in water line breaks. That can be the water line that's out underneath the street that the city owns. We also have it in people's homes where their pipes freeze and they break. So that's really the big concern.
Is
that
it
we
an
have.
old wives' tale to keep your water running? Or leave a drip going to keep your...
You could do that,
Yeah.
certainly. I think that we're actually putting out a press release today that talks about keep the cabinets open. If you've got your kitchen piping is on an outside wall, keep the cabinet open so it's exposed to heat. Do different things to make sure that you can keep the heat in the areas where your pipes are at so they don't freeze.
Timely advice. Robin, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
And we'll talk down the road here in 2014. Stay right there. We will talk on the other side of this break right after this. Stay with us.